Betting on the score, Manchester United versus Liverpool, 1915. One of the earliest and most documented cheating scandals in football history took place during a seemingly ordinary First Division match on April 2, 1915, between Manchester United and Liverpool. At face value, the match appeared unremarkable. Manchester United won 2-0 in a routine performance, but what unfolded behind the scenes would shock the footballing world and permanently stain the reputations of several players. 7 players, 3 from Manchester United and 4 from Liverpool, had conspired to fix the match result. They placed bets on a 2-0 victory in favor of Manchester United, a scoreline that bookmakers at the time considered relatively unlikely. The motivation for this collusion was primarily financial. During World War I, footballers faced pay cuts and uncertainty. Fixing a game offered them a chance to earn more than they could through regular wages. The match itself raised suspicions. Liverpool players made no real attempt to equalize after conceding 2 goals, and several goal-scoring opportunities were squandered in ways that didn't appear accidental. Even more suspicious was Manchester United's missed penalty, deliberately struck wide to keep the result at exactly 2-0, not higher. Word of the fix spread quickly, especially among bookmakers who noticed a large number of unusual bets on a 2-0 scoreline. An FA investigation concluded that the match had been rigged. All 7 players were handed lifetime bans. The most notable names included Sandy Turnbull, Enoch West, and Jackie Sheldon, the latter considered the ringleader of the scandal. Although many of the players later served in the war and were granted pardons posthumously or years later, the 1915 scandal set a precedent. It revealed how easily gambling interests could infiltrate professional football, and it led to the enforcement of strict betting regulations that remain in place today. Tampering with the penalty spot, Marvin Hitz, 2015. In the modern era, cheating can be more subtle, executed in small, deceptive ways that influence the outcome without obvious rule violations. One such example occurred in the Bundesliga on December 13, 2015, in a match between FC Augsburg and First FC Köln. Augsburg goalkeeper Marvin Hitz was caught on camera doing something sly but effective. Before a penalty was taken by Köln striker Anthony Modeste, Hitz used his studs to scuff up the penalty spot. As the referee organized players and the camera followed other parts of the pitch, Hitz casually dragged his boots over the turf, digging up the ground exactly where Modeste would place the ball. Seconds later, Modeste stepped up to take the penalty. His plant foot slipped as he struck the ball, and the penalty sailed off target. The move was not only successful, it directly contributed to the penalty being missed. Augsburg went on to win the match 1-0. While it may not seem as serious as match fixing, this form of gamesmanship is explicitly against the rules. The laws of the game state that players must not deliberately damage the field or interfere with set pieces. However, because the act occurred subtly and without the referee noticing in real time, Hitz faced no immediate punishment. After the incident became public through video replays, Hitz issued an apology and publicly admitted his actions were unsportsmanlike. This moment ignited broader debate about whether such tactics were clever or outright cheating, and whether referees needed more assistance, such as VAR, to catch micro-infractions that have outsized impact. Hitz's move represents a modern form of cheating, one that operates in the margins of legality, relies on split-second opportunities, and can shift the momentum of high-stakes matches without attracting attention until it's too late. Hand of God, Diego Maradona, 1986, World Cup. Few moments in the history of football have blurred the line between genius and deception more than Diego Maradona's infamous Hand of God goal during the 1986 FIFA World Cup quarterfinal between Argentina and England. The match took place on June 22, 1986, at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. Just 6 minutes into the second half, with the game still goalless, an aerial ball was miscleared by England defender Steve Hodge and looped back toward the England penalty area. Maradona, standing at just 1.65 meters tall, jumped into the air alongside England goalkeeper Peter Shilton, who was well over 6 feet. Maradona extended his left arm and punched the ball into the net. From most angles on the field, it looked like a legal header. The Tunisian referee, Ali bin Nasser, allowed the goal to stand. With no VAR or slow-motion replay available to officials at the time, the cheating went undetected during play. Maradona's celebration added to the deception. He did not hesitate or act guilty. He sprinted away with both arms raised, signaling triumph. Teammates joined in the celebration, and the goal was recorded in the scoreline. Maradona later described it as a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. Argentina took the lead 1-0, and just 4 minutes later, Maradona scored again, this time with an uncontested masterpiece of a solo goal, dribbling past 5 England players in a 60-meter run that is now immortalized as the goal of the century. But despite the brilliance of the second goal, the first one cast a long shadow. England were eliminated, and the Hand of God became one of the most controversial controversial incidents in World Cup history. It symbolized not only Maradona's cunning, but also the vulnerability of referees and the necessity of technological assistance in football. This act of cheating didn't just alter the result of a match, it shifted the legacy of a tournament, changed the narrative of an international rivalry, and became one of the most talked about moments in sports history. Faking injury. Rivaldo, 2002, World Cup. Another form of cheating in football is simulation, deliberately exaggerating contact or faking injury to deceive the referee. One of the most infamous examples occurred during the 2002 FIFA World Cup in South Korea and Japan. In a group stage match between Brazil and Turkey on June 3, 2002, Brazil were leading 2-1 in the final minutes of the game. As Turkey prepared to take a corner kick, Rivaldo, Brazil's number 10, stood near the corner flag waiting to receive the ball. Turkish defender Hakan Ünsal, frustrated by Rivaldo's delay, kicked the ball in his direction. The ball hit Rivaldo on the thigh. But what happened next shocked viewers worldwide. Rivaldo immediately collapsed, clutching his face in agony as if he had been struck violently. The referee, unaware of the actual point of impact and reacting to Rivaldo's theatrics, issued a red card to Ünsal. Turkey, already trailing, now had to finish the match with 10 men. Replays clearly showed that the ball had not hit Rivaldo's face. The simulation was blatant and deliberate. Although Brazil eventually won the match and would go on to win the entire tournament, this incident became a defining moment for discussions around diving and feigning injury. FIFA fined Rivaldo after the match, but the amount was insignificant in comparison to the impact the deception had during the game. This case illustrates how faking injuries can alter decisions, especially in tournaments where referees must act quickly and decisively. It also ignited global discussions about the use of post-match video reviews and the need to deter simulation more effectively. Bribing referees. Calciopoli scandal, Italy, 2006. Match fixing at the administrative level is a more organized and far-reaching form of cheating. In 2006, Italian football was shaken by one of its worst corruption scandals, the Calciopoli. An investigation launched by Italian police uncovered intercepted phone calls involving club officials from Juventus, AC Milan, Fiorentina, Lazio, and Regina. These conversations revealed a systematic attempt to influence referee assignments for Serie A matches during the 2004 to 2005 season. Luciano Moggi, Juventus's general manager at the time, played a central role. He coordinated with senior officials in the Italian Referee Association to ensure that favorable referees were assigned to Juventus matches, while less favorable ones were avoided. The manipulation didn't involve outright bribes in the form of money. Instead, it was a more covert network of influence. Who refereed what game, how they handled disciplinary decisions, and how they interpreted the rules. The intent was clear: shape the outcome of matches by ensuring that officiating leaned in favor of specific clubs. The scandal erupted in May 2006, just weeks before the World Cup. It led to rapid disciplinary action by the Italian Football Federation, FIGC. Juventus, the most heavily implicated club, were stripped of their 2005 and 2006 Serie A titles and relegated to Serie B for the following season. AC Milan, Lazio, and Fiorentina received points, deductions, fines, and suspensions for executives. The scandal shocked the football world, not just because of its scope, but because it exposed how deep-rooted and systematic cheating had become. It wasn't a single incident, but rather an institutional abuse of power, one that altered match outcomes and league standings for multiple seasons. The Calciopoli scandal changed Italian football forever, damaging public trust and forcing reforms in referee assignments, transparency, and communication between clubs and officials. Deliberate handball to save a goal. Luis Suarez, 2010 World Cup. When we think of cheating, we often picture covert tactics or rule-breaking disguised as legitimate play. But sometimes cheating happens in plain sight, as a last-ditch act of desperation. Such was the case with Luis Suarez during the 2010 World Cup quarterfinal between Uruguay and Ghana. The match was tied 1-1 deep into extra time, with Ghana pressing for a winning goal. In the 120th minute, a header by Ghana's Dominic Adia was on target and heading toward the net. Uruguay goalkeeper Fernando Muslera was already beaten. Luis Suarez, standing on the goal line, raised both hands and slapped the ball away, a clear, intentional handball. The referee immediately sent Suarez off with a red card and awarded a penalty to Ghana. This was the correct application of the rules, but what followed added a layer of controversy. Ghana's Asamoah Gyan stepped up and missed the penalty, striking the crossbar. The match went to a penalty shootout, which Uruguay won, advancing to the semifinals and eliminating Ghana, the last African team remaining in the tournament. Suarez was hailed as a hero in Uruguay and a villain across much of the world. His actions were against the rules, but from a strategic standpoint, they worked. By sacrificing himself with a red card, he gave his team a final lifeline, and it paid off. This case poses a philosophical question: when a player breaks the rules knowingly, gets punished appropriately, and the punishment still isn't enough to balance the outcome, is it still fair? Suarez's handball followed the letter of the law, but it challenged the spirit of the game. It remains one of the most blatant examples of a rule violation that changed the trajectory of a major international tournament. Using lasers to distract players. Salah vs Senegal, 2022. Cheating isn't always committed by players or officials. Sometimes it's the fans who step in to influence the outcome, using illegal means to affect the performance of opposing players. One increasingly common method is the use of laser pointers aimed at players' eyes during key moments, especially penalty shootouts. The most high-profile example in recent years occurred on March 29, 2022, during the World Cup qualification playoff between Egypt and Senegal. After a tightly contested two-legged tie, the match went to penalties to decide which team would qualify for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. As Egypt's star forward Mohamed Salah stepped up to take the opening penalty, he was visibly surrounded by green laser beams aimed directly at his face. Senegalese fans in the stadium had equipped themselves with laser pointers and used them to distract and disorient Salah in the most critical moment of the game. Despite being one of the most composed penalty takers in world football, Salah blasted his shot over the crossbar, uncharacteristically high. The lasers didn't just target Salah. Throughout the shootout, other Egyptian players were similarly harassed with lasers, contributing to Egypt's 3-1 loss in the shootout. Senegal qualified for the World Cup and the match result stood. The incident drew global condemnation, and video footage showing Salah covered in green laser dots went viral on social media. Despite the outcry, FIFA did not order a replay or impose severe sanctions on Senegal's football federation. The Egyptian FA filed a complaint, but the lack of enforcement highlighted the difficulty of managing fan behavior in international competitions. Using lasers violates FIFA's rules, stadium regulations, and public safety laws. Yet, enforcement remains a challenge due to the difficulty of detecting and apprehending individuals in large crowds. The incident involving Salah remains a stark reminder that fan interference, when unchecked, can have decisive and unfair consequences in elite football. Doping and banned substances. Paul Pogba, 2024. One of the most serious and medically sensitive forms of cheating in football involves doping, the use of banned substances to gain a physical advantage. In 2024, French midfielder Paul Pogba became the center of global attention when he failed a drug test while playing for Juventus. The incident began in August 2023, when Pogba was randomly selected for drug testing after a match against Udinese. Initial results indicated the presence of elevated levels of testosterone, a hormone naturally produced by the body but also classified as a banned, performance-enhancing substance when administered externally. A second test, known as the B sample, confirmed the result. In February 2024, Italy's National Anti-Doping Tribunal handed Pogba a 4-year ban from football, effectively ending his top-level career. At the time, Pogba was 30 years old and struggling with injuries that had limited his playing time over the previous seasons. Pogba and his legal team claimed that the substance entered his body through a supplement prescribed by a doctor, without intent to cheat. But under anti-doping laws, athletes are strictly liable for what they consume, regardless of intent or knowledge. The burden of verifying the contents of supplements lies with the player. This case is significant for several reasons. First, Pogba is a World Cup winner, a global brand, and one of the most recognizable footballers of his generation. Second, it reignited debates about supplement safety, athlete education, and the harshness of anti-doping rules that do not allow room for unintentional violations. Doping bans in football are relatively rare compared to other sports, but they are treated with utmost seriousness. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, maintains a strict code, and national federations enforce it with limited flexibility. Pogba's case mirrors the fate of other athletes whose careers were derailed not by injury or performance decline, but by a single violation of medical and ethical rules. His story stands as a cautionary tale about how one mistake, intentional or not, can end a career and damage a legacy.